Is there a shortcut to financial success? Many of us have been taught that there is no shortcut to financial success and you just gotta hustle it out and grind it out. Well, I'm here to tell you that there actually is a shortcut to success. There's a shortcut to financial success. And how do I know? I've worked with many women physicians that have gone years, sometimes decades, not achieving their financial goal. And within a year or 2 years of working together, they're accomplishing things that they've never achieved before. Which has brought me to the conclusion that there is a shortcut to financial success. And in this episode, I want to go through 5 things that I truly believe can help you shorten the track in your journey to the success that you're looking for. Before I start, I do want to have some disclaimers. Number one is this: I don't believe in get rich quick schemes. That's not what I'm talking about here. If you followed me around at all for any amount of time, you'll know that I personally choose not to do individual stocks. I also personally don't do cryptocurrency. My husband does do some cryptocurrency with a small portion of our portfolio. However, it's just not something that I choose to do. We follow traditional stock market, index funds, mutual funds. We do real estate, and we also do business. So businesses, I should say. However, what I'm going to tell you is this. I think there's a lot of misconception when it comes to financial success. And many times that you're told you just have to pull yourself by your bootstrap. And I truly, truly believe that is BS. I remember when I first started my journey and I realized that it was BS. And I remember that moment because I cried. I was like, you mean there's a shortcut and we've been told to just keep working harder, grinding harder, hustling like crazy, and maybe one day the pennies you're saving will be enough for you to be able to buy your freedom or achieve the freedom that you have. And that was the moment that I decided that I was going to commit my time, my energy to sharing as much of this information to more women physicians. And that is exactly how MoneyfitMD, with the platform, with the money school, with the podcast, with the YouTube, and all the speaking stuff we do, including the book, Done with Broke, that's literally how it came about. If you haven't met me, I'm Dr. Latifat, and I help women physicians have more money, take control over of their life, and grow their net worth so that they can build a life of richness and impact without sacrificing their well-being. So I want to talk to you guys about 5 things today because now I've gotten the disclaimer out of the way. And, I have so many stories upon stories. And if you go on our podcast, you'll see women physicians that I've interviewed who come into our community at different levels. There are people that come in with no financial experience, no financial, sort of like no history of being on top of their finances. And we also have people, I'll say maybe about half and half of our people would come in already with the basics covered. They have the retirement expenses, they're doing some investments. And for them, they really want to expedite their journey and live a life of richness, really. Or maybe they're like, I want to have control over my time. I want to create that life of liberation and freedom. And we're able to help them curate that. Of course, there is work that's involved in it. So I'm not saying like, oh, just show up and think that, everything is going to be dandy. No, that's why we literally have an application process for those that are interested in our community. And we have conversation, like one-on-one conversation with you before we can let you in, because we want to make sure that you're the right fit for us and also we're the right fit for you guys. Over the course of MoneyfitMD started I started 2020. The Money School started 2 years after that. I'm a huge fan of systems. If you know me, I'm all about systems. I'm looking for what works, like the minimum viable expense. I'm looking for like those key features, right? Because if we can like remove the fluff, because as we know women physicians, we're busy, right? So if we can just like take off the fluff and take out the things that's like not necessary, like we really can get to this thing that is reproducible. Well, if I hand this over to you, can you execute and create the result? If we hand this over to you, like if we can have that repeatable system, it's like any scientific experiment, right? You want it to be reproducible, and that's what we've been able to create inside of the Money School. So I really, really do believe that the things that I'm going to go through today has worked for so many women physicians and will work for you as well if you choose to leverage it and grow with it, okay? So number one thing is this: if you want to shorten your process to the results that you're looking to create, Number one is you have to stop avoiding the key thing that you need to do. Let me talk about that. So, as physicians, as women, we're busy. We have all those things. We have like 99 problems and all that stuff, right? We have busy lives. You're working clinically. Maybe you're doing like 60 hours a week. You're on call by the time you recover. And if you're a mom, we know that, there's the second shift, right? For women, you get home and it's not like you're like chilling doing nothing. And what ends up happening is that we are objectively busy. However, we've also bought into that identity that we're busy. And what ends up happening is sometimes we can start to use that as an excuse for avoiding the things that we should be avoiding. So, number one is that on a macro level, just avoiding the finances and not actually looking at all and just saying, I'm busy, I'll do it when I have time. And that does not change because time is not something that magically happens. You decide to create the time, and that's how it happens. So there's a macro level of maybe you're avoiding the work that you need to do. But there's also on the micro level where I found that every one of us has this area of our finances that we tend to be more comfortable with. So for many women physicians, because in society in general, if you look at a lot of the financial education, it is geared towards the financial education that's more geared towards women talks about things like budgeting, saving, cutting your expenses, emotional spending, all that stuff. While financial education that is more geared towards men talks about things like investing, right? And so it does make sense that maybe you feel more comfortable around things like debt. Maybe you feel more comfortable around things like, budgeting. But anytime you get past debt and budgeting, you may start to avoid the next area. And I actually I noticed that recently, even inside of my community, where one of our badass women physicians who had gone through, her main thing when she joined our community was like debt. And, she's like, I've had this debt forever. It's hanging over my head. I cannot sleep well at night. And literally within her first 90 days with her, she was able to create a debt elimination plan, including a date of her debt payoff. And we're talking about high interest debt that she wanted to eliminate, not necessarily debt in assets that she may want to carry along with her. And so now that that's done, that was the main reason why that was the biggest cause of her stress. However, paying off debt alone does not equate wealth. Paying off debt alone is not what brings you freedom. You have to invest. So what I started to notice is that there was some hesitancy in that scenario to verbalize her next goal, which was going to be investment goal, right? And the reason why is because she is normal, like you are normal. And on a micro scale, there is always something for every single one of us. So for you, it may be organizing your finances. For you, it may be estate planning. It may be looking at what your money is going. It may be looking at what your investments are. It may be automating your investments. There is something that you are avoiding. And so if you want to expedite that journey and shorten your time to wealth, your time to financial freedom, financial independence, financial liberation, whichever one of those is your primary goal right now, you're going to have to stop avoiding, whether that's on a macro scale or on a micro scale. And for most of us, we know what that thing is. You're listening to me right now, and you probably know what that thing is. And it may be because you don't have the knowledge, or maybe because there's some mindset drama or whatever. But the bottom line is, if you want to expedite and shorten that time to the results, you're going to have to address this on a macro scale or on a micro scale. I'll give you an example. Even when I started my journey, I knew zero about money. The only thing that I knew was, budgeting and debt, like I said, because that's usually how a lot of the financial education content that we get is usually directed. We talk about debt and nothing else. And so for me, when I started, it was budgeting. I hate budgeting, debt. And I created a debt elimination plan. And the debt that I had was I had a little bit, some credit card, but it was mostly student debt and student loan. And my goal was to pay it off in 5 years, but I ended up doing it in 2.5 years, right? But I had to face that, almost that discomfort that I felt in my body when I was looking at that. And honestly, those were the easiest part, because investment is the part that we feel the most uncomfortable about, because most of us don't have a lot of experience, don't have a lot of knowledge. And also because we're afraid of what could happen if we were to invest and make the wrong decision and lose our money, right? What I've learned over time is there are simple, effective ways that has literally passed the test of time, that has been known to be successful even without it being like crazy active, right? And so I had to learn all that and face my fear, my micro area that I was avoiding. And without that, I would not be where I am today. Without that, there's no way I'll be talking with you guys. Without that, there's no way I'll be living life and practicing medicine on my terms. So if you want to shorten that track, you have to stop avoiding on a macro scale or on the micro scale. Okay. Number two thing that you can do in order to like shorten the time to your freedom, I'm just going to use the word freedom or liberation, is investing. I know you're like the I word. Listen, y'all, I'm not here to like just waste your time. I'm here for us to be effective, right? I want us to be able to do the things that's going to actually create the results that we want. Because I can literally sit down here all day, start a podcast and start a YouTube and talk about like how you can like make sure you account for every single micro penny and how you can use cash for everything. No, let's do that. But in my opinion, those are the means to this end, and the end is really investment. You know that if you come into my world, if you come into my community, investment is a huge thing that I care about. Assets save lives. Assets lead to freedom, in my opinion. And the way that I think about it is it's the difference between me walking to New York versus me taking a plane to New York. I mean, I may get there if I'm biking, but what condition am I going to get there in? And for many of you guys, you may or may not know what compounding is when it comes to compounded interest. Compounding interest, in my opinion, is one of the gifts that God has given us as a vehicle to help us grow our finances so that we can get to freedom faster. And why does God want us to be free faster? Is so that we can live the life that we're meant to live in authenticity and to be able to create the impact that we need to create and we want to create in the world. That's why it's important. Another reason why it's important, and I'm just going to talk a little briefly about this because I think it deserves its own complete episode, was I was speaking with a group of friends of mine and they were talking about how, someone could have a lot of money, a lot of cash, and how, at some level, how much money do you actually need and or even want? And when someone has a specific amount of net worth, was the conversation we were having, this particular person felt like, how selfish could you be to have that kind of net worth, right? And what I said is this. I said, to each their own. I don't have that net worth. It's like in the billions. I'm not close to that. However, what I will say is this. I truly believe that money likes conduits. If you're someone that is a good conduit of money, you will get more resources given to you because the goal of money is to partner with you and do amazing things in the world. And what do I mean by that? If you are someone that is giving and you're giving out of your cash, sure, that is good. There's a lot of benefits doing that. However, if you want to be even more savvy, you invest in assets and then let your assets, it's like planting trees, let those trees now create the fruits that you can now donate and give. If you've planted a tree, it is harder for you to run out. In fact, you are low likelihood of running out. So most times when people talk about assets, they're talking about the trees that are planted. They're talking about the value of the company. They're talking about the value of the property or whatever, right? However, if the cash flow you're getting from there is now going to be part of what you're giving, you can see how your net worth may decrease transiently, but long term, it's not necessarily going to go down as long as the tree keeps producing fruit. You're watering, you're fertilizing, right? And so part of the reason why I believe compounding exists is so that we can do good things in the world, so that our money does not have to be reliant on us working and exchange time for money on a 1-to-1 ratio. That way you can be free to be able to use money the way that it's supposed to be used for. So if you're someone that you're not investing, you are not utilizing the potential shortcut that does exist to your financial success. I started this episode with a disclaimer saying that I personally do not invest in individual stocks. Does not mean you shouldn't do it or whatever, but just understand there's risk and benefits whenever you're investing, right? There's an inverse relationship in general between the risk you're taking and the chance of return. So inverse or direct. Let me say that out, because sometimes like those, remember those math equations? It just means that the more aggressive you invest, the higher the potential chance of return. So that would be direct, not inverse relationship. So I misspoke earlier. But the bottom line is, if you want a higher return potentially, you may need to take more risks. I remember with a woman physician that, one of my friends what messaged me a couple years ago. She's funny. And she was like, Latifat, my investment is not growing. My money is not growing. And I'm like, okay, what are you invested in? Right. This is like through her retirement investment at work. And she was like, I don't know, but it's not growing. Like, and we looked at it and I said, okay, go take a look and just check to see if the stove is off or if the stove is off. And what do I mean by that? When you put your money in an investment account, it does not necessarily mean that it's invested in something that's going to generate your money, because it just depends on what you put it. So if you say you put your money like a money market in the money market, the return potentially could be low. And you're like, I'm invested in the stock market, and you think you're investing aggressively when you may not. Right. So for her, what she found out was like the stuff was pretty much off. Yes, the stuff was off. So we had to talk about her risk tolerance to make sure that it was appropriate for her age and not based on, sort of like exaggerated fear that many of us may have when it comes to investment. So she looked at it and she's doing fantastic now. She's a pediatric subspecialist. She's killing it. She's investing in the stock market and in real estate, active and passive. And I cannot be more proud of her. But the bottom line is she chose to use her investment as a vehicle and making sure that her risk tolerance was actually sensible and not over exaggerated based on fear and misconception. Especially if you're like one of the first in your family to like build wealth. Maybe you're like that, you're that change maker in your family. You're like first degree wealth builder, right? There are things that maybe your parents haven't done before that now you're like afraid of how you could potentially lose this thing that you've worked hard for to get the seed that you invest in. So I do get it, right? And that's why it's important for you to make sure you talk to someone that can help you so that you're not actually in the plight of trying to be careful, now actually shooting yourself in the foot by not taking the actions that you need to take so that you can create the result that you need to create. So that's number 2, is if you're not investing in a way that makes sense based on the outcome you're looking for, based on the risk that is actually reasonable, you define that reasonability for you, then you definitely may be trying to take the bike to New York. Number 3 is this. If you're not automating, you probably are going to be negatively impacting your own journey. I love automation, y'all. Okay, so let me rewind. I love automation when it comes to money. Does not mean that I have complex automation. I am not an IT person. If you know me, I'm married to an IT dude, and there's a reason why God decided that my technology literacy was so low that I needed, to be married to my IT guy. But the reason why I say that is this automation doesn't have to be complicated, right? So many of you guys are taking the slow approach. By every month, you want to be manually doing the payment, doing your credit card payment off, doing the debt payment, doing the investment. But here's what I will tell you. We are humans and we're busy, especially if you're a physician, especially if you're a mom, right? I don't know. Tell me in the comment, are you busy or not busy? Right? If you're relying on you remembering every single month, there's a chance that you may forget, number 1. And also number 2 is life be lifing. I remember when seasons in my life, like for example, when I lost my dad, I normally like to cook. I actually enjoy cooking. I love feeding people that enjoy eating. But considering the fact that I loved cooking, I literally was just like off for like 6 weeks. I'm like not touching anything, none of that, right? And because it knocked me out, literally knocked me out, literally. Like I've never been so disappointed by our system as I was then, because I realized that grief was not something that our system actually accounts for. Like I think it was like 2 weeks or something of grief. And I'm like, shoot, I'm not even started crying yet. Like, anyways, that's a topic for another day. And that's why I truly believe that physicians and anybody that's listening to this right now, it's so, so important that we get the financial freedom and financial liberation so that we can give ourselves the gift of being human at whatever that means for you. So for me, that was being able to take the time that I needed to take care of myself. Um, but the reason why I bring that up is during that time, there was shoot. During those 6 weeks, there was no money stuff that I was about to do. No. Pay what, do what? I'm not, right? And thank God that things were automated. So I knew that I did not actually have to take the time to do those things because they were automated and they were going to happen because I decided in advance. So it wasn't just like the saving or the spending, it was also the investing was also automated, right? So if you're not automating, I bet it that you are actually not only slowing down your own time to completion of your journey or achieving your goal, but you also are wasting time and you're also wasting energy, right? The energy that you'd be putting towards remembering every day or every week or whatever could be better spent actually doing other things that will move the needle, like learning a new skill set, right? Spending time with your family. Just there's 5 billion things you could be doing with your energy, your time, and your attention that does not have to do with you remembering every single day. And yes, the fact that it's automated does not mean you don't look. You still look, right? That's why I recommend like a monthly CEO money hour where you're looking at your finances to make sure that the things that you're automating, there's no issues, there's no duplication, there's no mistakes. Things that are you actually are spending on are things that you actually do once still because the decision you made 2 years ago does not have to be the same decision you're making this year, right? So if you're not automating, you're avoiding your shortcut because that's literally what is going to help you make sure that your retirement account or other investments that you may be doing is actually taken care of because you decided ahead of time and you set things in motion. I did a Money Moves challenge recently. By the way, if you don't know about our Money Moves challenge for women physicians, you're missing out. So Money Moves challenge for women physicians is where we have women physicians over 5 days virtually, and I'm literally teaching important, potent stuff over 5 days that helps people take actions that they may never have taken before in specific areas of their finances. Some people apply for, they do the general admission, and some people choose to be VIP. For those who are VIP, they get extra hour with me 3 days a week. So they're group coaching and they're literally are getting the coaching that they need to move the needle. And the feedback we've gotten for the challenges are so amazing that if you are not a part of our challenge, I want you to go to moneyfitmd.com/FLP right now. We're going to make sure the link is in the show note because depending on when you're watching this video, the wait list is may be available or you may actually be able to register. Our next session is coming up at the end of July, so July 29th, I believe, to August 2nd. So if you're a woman physician, 100% recommend go there to that link right now. It literally has capacity to change your life. It's only $297 for VIP, which is crazy because working with me one-on-one is way, way, way more than that. But if you want to be general admission as well, which is also super duper high value, that's $97. So just go in there right now for this next quarter. We're going to have no more than 50 women physicians. So first come, first app, go in there, go register. We cannot wait to help you make moves. But automation is one of the things that I talk about there. And I also talk about the fact that so many of us think we have goals, but we don't. We actually just have wishes. We have life wishes. We have financial wishes. If you are not creating a plan, all you have is a wish, and it's no wonder you're not creating it. We know that when we have specific goals, we execute. For example, you had a goal to become a physician. It was not a wish. You took actions, right? It became a goal. You created a plan and then you executed it. Those are the ways that things actually do happen. So if you have goals or things that you desire, but you're not creating, for the most part, it's probably because you have a wish. So automation is one of those key tools that I highly, highly recommend because it will literally shorten your time. I mean, I'm a mom. I got 3 kids. My kids are now 11 and below, right? But there was a time when I had 3 that were 6 and under. Shoo. I'm not about to remember anything manually because it's going to be a bunch of like late payments. Just being real. Just being real. So if you're not automating, you literally are enlarging or elongating, whatever that English word is, right? Your own journey to wealth. And then the number 4 point is this, guys. I honestly, this has been a game changer for me. And it's one of the reasons why I started the money school. It's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And it literally is because I believe in the power of relationships and your social capital. What do I mean by that? So depending on where you're from, depending on where your family and how your family grew up or whatnot, The people that you have around you may not necessarily, they may be amazing people, but they may not be the people that are going to take you to what you're trying to get to. And I say that with all humility as someone that has friends that have been like literally lifelong friends. I have friends since high school. I have friends from all walks of life, right? I value my relationships so much, and I believe in our inherent, in like our God-given value as humans. So I'm not saying that someone with economic means is of more value than someone that isn't. However, I will tell you that we are the average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. And one of the things that I struggled with at the beginning was, okay, if I'm getting to know new people, am I leaving my people behind? Right? Am I saying I'm like too big for all that? But I'm like, no, that's just societal crap. Like, I still hang out with my people, but when it comes to my brain and the people that I'm letting invest in my money mindset, I want to make sure that it's people that have created the things that I want to create. Or it may not be exactly that, but people that are willing to put themselves in uncomfortable positions, people that understand the value of their time, people that are on a mission to create an impact, people that value freedom, not people that are settling for, whatever it is they're settling for, but people that have that desire for self growth to be the best version of themselves and really see that they are here on this life in this world for a limited time, and they don't want to take any talents with them. They want to leave it all like on the playing field. That's who I am, right? So that ability to build relationship, not with people that are where you're coming from, but making sure you enlarge and bring abundance into your relationship, to invite in people that are maybe where you want to go, or in the same direction as you're trying to go to, will make a huge difference. And the thing I will tell you is this. I mean, I know that this can be uncomfortable because it really did feel uncomfortable for me, especially as a woman, a physician, a Black woman talking about money. This is not something that is celebrated in the healthcare industry, right? And when I first started, I will be honest, my friends looked at me like it got 10 heads. It was like, literally every time I talked about money, it was like, oh my goodness, like, Latifa, we're good. Like, doctors have guaranteed income. And I'm like, yo, guys, we don't know that, right? I was almost like that person that said, like, the sky is falling, right? And over time, I'm so glad I did not quit, because over time, they've also come around. Many of them are now doing their finances, they're creating their own life of freedom, they're diversifying, all because I chose to let myself go first and do the hard thing first, right? So that relationship can literally make or break you. The other thing it does is it provides access and leverage. So, for example, I have people in my community where, maybe they've been thinking about investing in passive income, but it's overwhelming. They're out on the streets, they don't know what to invest in. They're like, we don't know what to trust. We don't have time to vet people. And I always remind people that you cannot vet any human being 100%. But one thing that I like to do is I like to observe people and watch people. So, for example, there are people that I may have been watching for like a year, 2 years. I may not say a word, but I'm observing them because I'm looking at how they interact with people. I'm looking at their ethics. I'm looking at how they carry themselves, right? Do they respect humans? Do they respect women? Like, there are all those things that you may think has nothing to do with money, but I'm literally out watching. There are times when there's literally someone that I invited. She was not able to come speak at our in-person event, Wealthy You Life, that happened in Atlanta this year, which is our yearly event. Yes, it's yearly now. You heard it. Our yearly event for women physicians that are building wealth. It's a time to connect together, to grow together. And we had our first one in May of this year. It was amazing. It was mind-blowingly amazing. Our next one is going to be in San Diego, 2025 September. So if you have not registered yet, you definitely want to. We can go to MoneyfitMD .com/WYC Wealthy Your Life. And what we have there is, it was such a great time. But one of the people that I wanted to come speak, she wasn't able to. But I've been following this lady for, I don't know, a year and a half now. I've seen her interviews, I've watched her, all that stuff. I've even had her come into our community. But when it came to coming in live in person, I'm like, I need to do another extra layer of vetting. So I'm reaching out to people that know her to ask, what's your thought about her? Like, would you have her speak at your event? How does she engage in person? Right? And the reason why I do that is because my community is important to me. Like, I truly, truly take the trust that my women have in me. That's so important to me. It's not worth me losing for anything, right? And many of the women that I work with, they may be the first in their families to generate wealth. They're like change makers, they're impact driven, they're leaders. And so I'm their bridge. I'm part of their access. I'm part of their privilege, right? And so when I introduce someone to them, now they're leveraging my relationship. So they're not starting from like 0 points. Now they're starting from like 0.2 years. And so if they want to follow the person for like a couple more months before they invest in them, it's 6 months as opposed to 3 years. So you can see how being in relationships where we can have conversations with people that we trust can be such a huge vehicle to help expedite your journey. The other thing we've had, even in our community, was we've had people say things like, don't invest with this person, they're a jerk. Yep, we talk about you. If you're the jerk, we're talking about you. Yes, we do, right? So the bottom line is that if you are in communities where these conversations are happening, it is ridiculous. And that is why, honestly, we had people come into our community. We literally had someone come in, and within a week she was invested in her first passive income investment. We have people that within 90 days are invested in their second, maybe third investment vehicles, right? And the reason why, it's not because we made those things up. It's literally because they were able to leverage the community and the relationships that were already set in order to be able to get to their own destination faster. Okay. And then the last but not the least, which is point 5, which in my opinion is critical, it's mentorship and coaching. I'm not going to tell you something that I don't personally do, because that would be not right. And if I'm not doing it, I will tell you that I'm not doing it. Part of my biggest expense is coaching. And I'm not saying that so that your own biggest expense will be coaching. I'm telling you that because I'm telling you what changed my life and is changing my life, right? If you want, and the reason why this is important is this: we all have blind spots, right? Who you are, what you've created today, is the result of who you are, the stories you're telling yourself or not telling yourself, the beliefs you have, the connections, the relationships, the opportunities, right? And the time management that you're able to do so far. In order for you to get to the next level, those are going to need to change. Again, the stories you're telling yourself or not telling yourself, your beliefs about money, about opportunities, about people, about yourself, about wealth, all that has to change. Your time management has to change. And we all have blind spots. We all have blind spots. These are not one undone. I have been getting coached by myself for, I want to say, 5 years now. Zero, this is not something that you can touch. Like, this is an expense line that you're not allowed to touch, because it literally has changed my life, right? The things that I've been able to create in 6 years, in 7 years, in 8 years, in my personal finance, in our real estate investment, in my business, I give so much credit to being able to look for and get into good coaching containers. Some of this may have been one-on-one. Many of this are group, right? The bottom line is that a coach and mentor is going to help you see the blind spots that you're not seeing and help you shorten the time to the results that you want to create. And I think one of the challenges that people have is people ask things like, how do I know who to trust? Ask your community. Follow them. If you're watching my page right now, look for the people that we've interviewed, right? People that would reach out to them and ask them, or just send me a message on Instagram and ask them, do you trust yourself? Or just schedule a call with our member of our team and they can answer your questions, right? But the key is the questions that you are leaving unanswered are part of the reason why your journey is not moving forward. You keep telling yourself, I'm going to get a coach. You keep telling yourself, I'm going to sign up for that program. You keep telling yourself, I'm going to automate. You keep telling yourself, I'm going to expand my circles, not necessarily change your circles, but expand your circles to be reflective of not where you're coming from only, but where you're also trying to get to. Right? You're like, I'm going to be investing. I'm going to stop avoiding my finances. Yet you're not doing those things. It's no wonder the journey is taking you longer. Right? I always tell people, like, the changes that we want when it comes to our finances actually doesn't take a heck of a long time. What takes a long time is you deciding and getting off the chair and taking the action that is reflective of the outcome that you want. What do I mean by that? If I look at your action, will I be able to guess what your desired outcome is? If I look at the action you're taking or not taking, will I say this is somebody that wants to create this? Because if it's not, then all you have is like just wish and avoiding and letting fear get the feel, just win your life. And I get it. Fear is real. I have fear too. But the difference between Latifa that's doing the things that I'm doing and the Latifa of before is because this Latifa is like, yes, I have fear, but I'm not letting that mean that I cannot take the action that I want to take. I'm not letting discomfort mean that I cannot take the action that I want to take. Meanwhile, so many of us see those and we assume that it means that you're not meant to do it, that today is not a good day, maybe next year, right? You avoid it one more time, one more day because you want to feel that transient relief in the discomfort that you have when the actual decision you need to make is keep going even when it's uncomfortable. Keep going when there's fear. Because at the end of the day, guys, what you want, the future you want is available for you. The future that I want is available for me. It's accessible. But we now have the power to decide the when. And I truly believe that these 5 things that I've shared with you will help most, if not all of you guys that are listening right now, identify where your thing is that you need to work on. Because when you work on that one thing, then you can move forward. So I'm curious, which one of those 5 are you going to work on? If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comment. I want to hear from you. I'm here to serve. If you're watching on the podcast, leave us a review. Let me know which one of these you're working on. And I challenge you to not just be a talker, but to actually be a doer. I want you to go from knowing to actually taking action. So when you figure out which one of those 5, decide and get moving. I cannot wait to celebrate you because this is what happens after you do that. 3 months from now, 90 days from now, 6 months from now, 1 year from now, imagine what things could look like if you could shorten your own distance to your success because you decided to do the brave thing, to do the courageous thing, and not let fear and discomfort keep working against you. I love you so much. I hope this has been helpful. If it has been, please share it with other women physicians. This is my community service, and I want this to get into the hands of more women. So feel free to tag them or share a link on whatever platform you're listening. All right, love you. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.